Okay, this is phase 2 of sorting out the ZUBE tube. As much as I like these clear glass hard plastic containers, they crack too easily, especially once you've modified them, and they melt far too easily once you put hot glue on them. So I can't really trust these cups to stay good over the years, as my Reverb unit might cop a little bit of abuse and things might crack. I found a nice cup. It's actually a pretty cool 3D cup from a petrol station. I'm going to start with one of these, and I'm going to put a tiny hole in the bottom, just enough to put the wire through. And I'm also going to put this cup into the plastic container, or to the pipe, to cut it down and squeeze it right in. This will be much more durable, and it's thicker plastic, so it might not resonate as much, but it will be much more durable. And I can always amplify the signal if I'm worried that it's not loud enough. It might take a little while to cut through this plastic because it is quite a bit thicker, although it does look quite durable. So it's not as brittle as those other cups that I started with. Alright, I'm going to try to cut through this thing with my cutting iron, my heating iron. Normally people use these little irons for cutting designs on wood or burning designs into wood or plastic. This is not the soldering iron that I use to solder electronic parts or components, because this particular thing is going to be covered in plastic and other toxic fume making materials. So I have one cheaper soldering iron which I only use for cutting or burning holes into things. The other soldering iron I only use for electronics, and it's a slightly better quality and it's very clean. So the only thing that it ever touches is solder and a little bit of flux. I also like to keep my other soldering iron as clean as possible so that the solder will adhere to the tip. When you're using a cutting soldering iron like this one, it doesn't really matter what you do with the tip as long as it's pretty clean when you start the process. So if you're clean at the beginning, you should have a pretty good product when you're finished. The tip of the soldering iron can definitely accumulate a lot of plastic and whatnot, but I think if there's too much plastic coming out, you might not be doing it right. By the looks of things, I haven't gone in quite deep enough, but that's okay. I'll go around 2 times. I'd rather have a smooth edge that takes longer than a wobbly edge that I have to deal with later and fix. I'm coming around to the 2nd time. As you can see, I melted off the thicker plastic cup. Actually 2 layers here, it's quite a thick cup. Pretty decent, durable plastic. Inside here I have the remainder of the cup, but first of all I would like to smooth it off. And in order to do that, I'm going to use this 180 grain sandpaper. Once that's done, I can pop out the bottom of this cup. That's a good thing. Alright, and maybe I can hone this a little more. I don't want any burrs or barbs on it, because they could later rattle inside the Reverb unit. So it needs to be pretty slick. So I also want to smooth the inside, just to get an even edge. Looks pretty sweet. More durable plastic. You can see I've got this pin prick size hole here. I can then attach the spring. Now I just need the hot glue gun to heat up. So I've got the spring from the ZUBE tube. I've got the bottom of the cup at this point just sitting inside the other part of the cup to keep it stable. I'm going to put a dot of hot glue on that end part there. So I can add some more glue to it. I don't want to add too much glue, as if you remember what happened last time, the cup didn't respond very well and it melted the bottom of the cup. So I'm taking it easy with this, although I am quite sure this is different plastic. I mean, it's a cloudy color. and I believe it's much sturdier stuff. A big fat dollop. See, I didn't want to make it too thick. That will do it. I want to vibrate it so this dab rolls out a little. Okay, that looks pretty nice. I'm just blowing on it to cool it off a little faster. Although the hot glue gun is very effective, I'm still not really that great at using it, meaning I'm not sure how long the cool down time is. And if I move the job too early, then I'm going to probably make a big mistake with this. As you can see, the point that I made originally to stick the wire through has not grown bigger. So the hot glue gun on this type of plastic is not an issue. I can feel with my finger that that hot glue is still hot, although it's hard to tell visually whether it's cooled off or not. I think in the end it gets a little cloudy, and when it's cloudy you know that it's fully cooled down, and it's still very, very shiny, which to me seems it's not finished cooling off yet. It's a very simple little twist that I made in the wire there, but you're going to find that it's going to hold very, very well once that glue is fixed, and the glue dries quite hard. So when the glue is very fixed and hard in there, that anchoring that we've put in with this bent wire should be more than enough to give us confidence about putting this into the ZUBE tube and making this new reverb unit. We can be confident because we know that this type of plastic is of sturdier stuff and it's not going to crack when it vibrates, unlike these clear plastic cups that I tried to use earlier. They crack at the drop of a hat. I had no idea how brittle they were, and it's hard to even imagine a product this flimsy could be on the market. But I guess I did weaken them when I cut them down, and cutting them down was an adventure in itself. But these plastic cups, as firm, hard and reasonable as they would have worked, they're really just rubbish. I'm going to connect the spring to this piece of steel. I think I could just drop it through straight like this. And so one end will be the receiver, this end will be the transmitter, and this end needs to be so here I've got the tube. Inside the tube I've got the old cover that was the ZUBE tube. The receiver goes in here. As you can see, the metal bar is well weighted to go down this tube. Drop the cup in. Sounds pretty awesome. Can you hear that? Alright, so the cup is in one end. I have to drop some super glue in here to make sure it doesn't move around. And this end, I pull up the spring. So when the spring is taut, it makes that great reverb sound. You can see how that works. There we go. I've hooked it inside, and I'm going to drop a bit of glue on here. Just a drop, and hopefully it doesn't melt. So I'll drop this into the container, squeeze it in. It's a nice fit. Perfect fit, really. The top edge is really nice. It fits perfectly. And now I've got a ZUBE tube that's working again. The whole thing has been completely changed. Anyway, originally I used this kind of plastic, this blue one. Then I tried this clear one, which you can see just turns to shit. I've gone through a few different cups. So the receiver side is a more brittle type of plastic, but the more brittle plastic seems to be quite firm. I'm going to drop a little bit of super glue around the edges there. Not hot glue gun, because I find the hot glue gun is too thick. So I'm going to use something a little thinner that can sort of drip in there and seal it up. Well, the ZUBE tube is in order. This much of it is completed. You can see now that the glue's changed color as it's cooled off. It's quite firm. It's not going anywhere, that's for sure. And this side, I just need to drop a little glue in, and then we'll get started on the side with the preamplifier.